Hey there, my name's Danny Leibrandt and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today I have Mike Blumenthal, who is currently the co-founder of Near Media. He's been in local SEO for 19 years, almost 20 years, again, total veteran in the space. He's been in marketing for over 40 years, and he is also the co-founder of Gather Up and Local U. So,
Those are
guys,
all pretty amazing stats when you're only 59, right?
yeah. Yeah, no. So Mike, I've heard from numerous people, is the OG in the local SEO space. So glad to have Mike on. Again, just another top local SEO expert. And I'm so grateful for you to come on, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, you've been in marketing for over 40 years. Can you tell me, so you said 44 years, what was the first point in getting into marketing?
Well, I was working in a family business. I built a new division in the family business selling computers, and we live in an unusual market which only has 13,000 people in the immediate market. And to get to 250,000 potential customers, we had to go out 60 miles. And so I had to learn how to find and target those people 60 miles away through a range of small towns and counties, rural counties, uh, and businesses within that. So that's what got me started. And then, I started selling computers. Ultimately, that led me to get into the internet. In late 1999, we built a early CM content management system. We closed the retail business. I went into web hosting, web design in 2000. Became clear to me that these websites sitting isolated on the internet without internet marketing were pretty useless. So I learned SEO in the early 2000s. And then when Google released Google Maps for me in 2005, and particularly when they merged Google Maps and Google Local in late 2005, it was an epiphany because I needed at that time 9 yellow page books to identify clients, potential clients, and to market. And I was able to throw away those 9 yellow page books with great joy because I had a lot of resentment against the yellow page companies. And early on, to me, it was obvious that the yellow page companies were toast. It took them many years to actually get toasted, but it was clear that they were toast and that local marketing, digital local marketing was going to invert everything, the whole sort of process where it used to be big companies sold locally on the internet. It was going to be able to allow little companies to sell globally on the internet. And that was a very exciting prospect for me. 2005, 2006, I started writing about local SEO with my blog. And from that made great friends, great acquaintances, David Mim, Aaron Wyke, Don Campbell, Joy Hawkins along the way. And those people have been instrumental in helping me build businesses, sell businesses, help other businesses succeed from here to there.
Wow. So you've
From
really
there to here.
seen the whole evolution of marketing going digital, right? Can you just tell me a little bit more of what that was like? Was it more of a slow process or did it feel like it all just hit at once?
Well, up until 2005, there was very little internet, local internet. There was some. City Search was around, AOL, and they had sort of MapQuest, and they had sort of early indicators that there's going to be both an advertising possibility in local as well as other free options. And then there was this boom in the mid 2000s of all of these local sites that ultimately crashed and burned, some of which are still around, but Yelp is still around. City Search is no longer, inside pages is no longer. At that point there was this battle as to who was going to control the local internet. And Google on the one hand took on the mapping companies of the world, MapQuest and Bing, on the one side, and on the other side of that battle took on the listing companies like City Search and Insider Pages, the Yellow Pages, and essentially self-preference. In other words, used maps to sell their list, to highlight their listings, to compete with Yellow Pages, and sold their listings to their maps users to compete with the maps. So by merging the two products, they were able to compete and ultimately destroy all of that value, all those companies and many others.
Wow.
And that switch I thought was going to happen quickly, right? I was naive enough to think that everybody could see how valuable local SEO was. But I started writing about it in 2006 quite religiously, mostly as a way for me to articulate my thinking, try to understand what was happening, do experiments publicly so they could be reviewed by my peers, and we could together increase our understanding of local SEO. And I didn't get I was still living off my web hosting, web design business, and I didn't get my first local SEO contract until 2011. But after that, fairly rapidly, 2011, 2012, 2013, the world inverted and local became largely what it is today.
Interesting. Yeah, tell me more about that first local SEO contract. I'm interested.
Trying to remember, I mean, I had a fairly broad reach because my blog was one of the few blogs that focused on local SEO. And I was speaking nationally at Search Engine Land and Search Engine Roundtable conferences, whatever. And I can't even remember what the contract was. Maybe it was to scrape Google or something. I can't even quite remember. But subsequent to that, I developed an international clientele, helping with basic local SEO in fairly rapid succession. 2012 was also when I started programming the essence of GatherUp in 2011, 2012. I failed. Late 2012, I partnered with Don Campbell, and together we built a review management product, and I worked there for free for 2 years. I was also building out Local U, which was a in-market seminar series where we'd go out to the mid-major markets and help train small businesses. So I was doing my web design, web hosting, web building, local SEO consulting, Local U, and GatherUp all simultaneously, and not making much money at any of them, enough to have a good time, enjoy myself. But I literally had 4 jobs in the early years, 2012, 2013. And they added up to probably 75 hours a week for me to put enough food on the table to take care of my family. But I hit some lucky breaks along the way, and I was able to ultimately sell my web hosting, web design. I was ultimately able to sell Local U, ultimately able to sell GatherUp, all successful exits, and founded Near Media, and we're doing some really, really incredible things in Near Media that nobody else is doing in local. We're doing consumer behavior research. So we put together panels of 200, 300, 400 consumers. We give them a problem, and like, oh, you're moving next month, you have some excess furniture, you need to do something with it, go to Google and solve your problem. And then we put a piece of software on their phone or their computer, we videotape their behavior, we record their audio commentary, and we tabulate all of that to understand what drives their behavior in different verticals. And we're seeing both what Google is presenting to these people, which nobody really gets to see in real time, as well as how people respond to it. And it's most understanding comes from after the fact analytics or some large scale million URL study that looks at averages. We look at specific verticals and specific behaviors within those verticals to really understand what drives decision making. And it was very enlightening it has been very enlightening for me. As you noted, I've been doing this a fair bit of time, and every research project ends up surprising me. Consumer behavior is infinitely variable. It varies depending on exactly what it is they need, how important it is in their life, what's important. So we're finding that virtually every category has a different set of behaviors. If you imagine sort of a 6-pointed spider chart of some sort, in one vertical, it's going to weight very heavily in one direction, another vertical in another. For example, price and proximity. Like if you look at storage, for example, price and proximity are key drivers, and reviews are important, but only important as an eliminator. They're not important as a primary decision maker. So people will find places that are nearby and have some deal, and then they'll find 4 or 5, which is common, that people want choice, and then they'll eliminate a couple based on the reviews. So in that context, reviews are just sort of a secondary impact. Whereas in, say, physicians, we looked at OBGYN and general practitioners. People will go 20 deep in the local finder to find the top 3 or 4 or 5 physicians in their area, and then use other criteria to pick between them, using reviews to pick. So in that particular vertical, we saw a very deep, long tail in the local finder. So positions 4 through 20 were wildly busy if you had good photos and good reviews. And then once they found those 4 or 5, they'd use other criteria to pick, did they have my insurance? Were they available taking new appointments? Do they look like me? So this whole decision process, reviews were critical. Now, interestingly, less than 50% of the people actually read the reviews. They use star ratings and quantity of reviews as a proxy for quality. And sometimes they will do brand searches to get a holistic picture of the review, but very few people actually read the reviews. And I think most businesses think that every written review is going to change at their existential reality, and they come into the Google forums, where I have been volunteering since 2007, distraught that they got a negative review and, oh my God, their life's going to go to hell in a handbasket. And, the reality is that people don't read them. Most people don't read them. So, you have to worry less and do your job better, and you'll get good reviews.
Definitely. Wow. Okay. So that's so interesting. I've seen you talk several times about consumer behavior and analyzing it, but I always assumed that was through SEO tools. Maybe it's Google Analytics or whatever, SEMrush. I didn't realize that you were doing it in person, which is completely unique. So I actually didn't know that.
Right. I mean, the problem with almost all of the current SEO tools, the problem with analytics is it's statistical analysis after the fact. So you can change something and you can maybe see a result in analytics, but you have no idea if that correlation is causal, right? You change something, who knows what else changed, you get a different result. So SEO tools all have an underlying theory of how SEO works. And those theories drive those numbers. Things like domain prominence. I mean, these are numbers that Google doesn't use. They're designed as, again, proxies. But you put too many proxies together and you end up with bullshit, right? Because you're making too many assumptions about the reality. We're looking at the reality and then making conclusions based on that. So it's a totally different approach to understanding how your vertical works. So I think, it's not cheap because it requires a lot of manual labor still. Maybe someday we'll be able to automate it, but it is the only effective way. And the reason is that the lessons we learn in SEO, somebody will read my blog, I'll say XYZ is important. Every spammer in local SEO will do it, or Darren Shaw will do it, or Joy will do it. But what people don't realize is it's only important in that particular context, for that particular business, in that particular location, right? I mean, local is all about this sort of uniqueness of the business in that contextual situation where the person with a phone is maybe driving down the road. Nobody else is ever going to do the search in the exact same position, right? So every vertical you're in is going to be different, and the rank of the important things is going to be different. Now, in aggregate, you'll see these certain things crop up over and over again. But we just finished some research in a home service business, and it was overseas. But what was amazing was the depth of the click-through rates to the websites, and how most users, 70%, ended up clicking through to the websites. And in this home remodeling vertical, they wanted before and after pictures. They wanted to see if the style and the tastes of this company were compatible with the style and tastes of the searcher. And it was just fascinating because it's hard to know exactly what drives consumers. So at some point, this reminds me that, with the Google leaks that came out and the Google Department of Justice revelations, it became clear that Google doesn't really understand the page that the user is going to. They understand that the user clicked to that page, and they understand that the user spent time on that page. And it became clear that click to the home remodeling site and the time they spent on the page, because they had great photos before and after, in style, whatever. It became clear from all of this that that's the biggest ranking signal, not inbound links, not, blog posts, not any of this other stuff, but whether the users found your title tags and meta descriptions significant enough to click, and once they got there, whether they stuck around to pay attention to what you had on offer. That's probably 30% of the ranking algorithm. And that knowledge, that understanding, which is only now hitting local SEO, SEOs in general, should cause every marketer to reframe how they're thinking about local SEO. That, we have a problem in our industry, and I call it the silver bullet problem. Somebody will write a blog post about how this is a ranking factor, that's a ranking factor, and we're all looking for that little edge. And we'll implement this link, we'll go get links, or whatever we do, we'll buy links, And meanwhile, we neglected fundamental, basic things like a great, meaningful title tag, and a great, meaningful meta description, and a great picture that shows on a mobile search result that relates, that's semantically related to the content. And when users get to our website, they stay there because they find it valuable and it helps them make a decision. And so that reversal, that inversion, we used to think, getting a high rank is what's going to cause people to click through and get them to. It's the other way around. Getting people to click through and stay on your site is causing high rank. And I think that every marketer, every business needs to understand that. It's the same with reviews. Got to get more reviews. No, you don't have to get more reviews. Okay, you hit 10, you get the ranking boost, but then what? Then you need to you need to run as good a business as you can run. You need to get as much intelligence as you can get from your customers. And you need to get a continual stream of reviews, but you don't need 10 gazillion. You don't have to worry if one gets lost or two get lost, or you get a negative one. You have to run a great business, understand what consumers think about you makes it great. Keep doing that, keep getting, so that Google and consumers can see that your business has a heartbeat, right? I mean, we see consumer behavior. They're looking for some minimum number in your market, in your vertical, right? So if everybody's got 80 reviews, you need 80 reviews to be competitive. And they're looking, the standard has increased over the years. Consumers seem to think 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, 4.9 are the sweet spot for minimum consideration reviews. You don't need to worry about 5.0. You don't need to worry about 1,000 reviews. You need to worry about being competitive. And then you need to worry about running a great business, understanding what your consumers think is great so that you continue to get good reviews, right? And so those are two areas in local that I think haven't been baked into everybody's thinking yet.
Mm. Wow. What you were saying earlier, dead on. I couldn't agree with you more, that everyone seems like they're optimizing for SEO, and everyone's trying to find like the quick little tip, the quick little thing to fix. And they're always trying to optimize for the search engine, when I've found, listening to tons of experts like you, is that you need to be optimizing for the user, because that's actually what Google's doing. So you're
Right.
like trying to go through a middleman. It's like, no, you already have the end result that you want. It's like, optimize for the user. If you give the user an amazing experience, Google's going to boost your page. But don't optimize for Google then for them to optimize for the user. Like, people are like going in a circle there. Just focus on the user, and then you don't have to worry about all these guidelines and the latest Google leak. Would you agree with that?
I mean, ever more so, and particularly as Google moves away from a understandable ranking algorithm to a ranking algorithm that's driven by AI, it becomes ever more opaque. And Google is going to reward quality, but they have no way to read a page and understand if the page is quality. All they can see, and they see it from Chrome, they see it from Android, they see it from the Google app on your iPhone. They see whether a person clicks to your website and whether they stay on the website. That's what they see. That's how and for them, that's their proxy for quality, for EEAT or whatever the current, acronym is. That's important. That's how Google evaluates your work, is do people click through, which is a great mobile photo, schema if it's being shown, good meta description, great title tag, meaningful in your market to your searchers. And that, like I said, varies by category. It's not the same across everybody. And then once they get through, whether you're giving them what they need to stick around. And then, yeah, the world's your oyster, as they say.
Definitely. Awesome. Going off the Google data leak, was there anything surprising that you found in that? Anything that maybe you weren't expecting?
The frequency of the use of the words web references.
How so?
So, well, this is going to take us back to the early days of Google Local. They had the local business center and the local results page. And on the local results page, like right now, when you go into a business profile, you'll see the summary at the top, the pictures. Below that, you'll see some organic links. So in the original version of Google Local, these links were called web references. And what was fascinating about them was that they did not require links. They were strictly references to the business, that Google had enough information that they could associate with the business, whether it was a review on some third-party site, whether it was a mention of your business in the New York Times, whether it was something else, right? It may have a link, but it didn't necessarily need a link. We could go back, we could look, we could check, we could see all the top web references Google was showing, and we could see as far back as 2007, 2008, that Google was ranking businesses based on web references. In other words, not links per se, but Google's understanding of a mention of a business. And that mention was broadly defined. It wasn't limited to a certain type of link or whatever. When you go back and you look at that leak and you search on the word web references, you find them everywhere. In a world of entities where we're worried about things, not strings, as Google used to say, and we're ranking a entity in a knowledge graph. So my business becomes an entity in the knowledge graph. That knowledge graph entry is ranked based on whatever criteria Google's going to use, my web page, my rank on Yelp, my articles in the New York Times. All of those web references accumulate in this knowledge graph pointing to my business. So the point of that is that public relations, as we've historically known it, is just as valuable now as it ever was then. That Google doesn't distinguish between a reference to your business that has a link or doesn't have a link. Now, a link may increase Google's understanding of your business by maybe referring to some service that that is useful or helpful to them to understand it. But links are not the end all to be all in Google's understanding of your business. That web references are, and web references could be viewed as brand mentions, or there's just enough information that with a link they know it's your business because they can see it. But with something beyond a link, it's got to be more explicit, right?
Okay, great. I'm actually so glad you mentioned that, because I have been preaching that, but kind of like hypothetically and just on a whim. I actually did not know that was in the Google data leak, but I just kind of intuitively knew that if people are mentioning your business or maybe your name, whatever the entity is, in various sources, that's going to boost the entity, especially if it is other authoritative entities. So like I've kind of done that with my personal brand, where I'm now associating with other high-level people like you. So now, even though, I will make a blog about this, but even though I'm not potentially don't have to link to you or whatever, even just mentioning your name and
hold it, you're not going to link to me? Oh, what am I doing this whole thing for?
No, I will link to you. I'm saying, but even if I didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'll mention you on all the socials, and like usually how this goes, like we comment back and forth, and then maybe you repost, and that establishes a clear connection between me and you, which most people don't even understand that. But that's like maybe 50% of why I do this podcast, is to boost my entity and my agency's entity. So I couldn't agree more.
There you have it. We solved the problems.
Yeah.
We're only a half hour in though.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to ask you. So you run the super in-depth consumer behavior analysis. Can you tell me more about that? So that's in person. Do you have a group of people like in a room? How does that go?
No, we contract with a company that assembles people across the geography we're looking for. So we do research in the United States, Canada, Europe, United Kingdom. And so we work with this company that helps us find panelists. They agree to the terms, depending on the country you're in, it might be different terms. And they install a little widget on their desktop or mobile device that allows us to give them a task and then record video and audio of their actions as they move through the task. So we can we see what searches they're doing, how many searches they make, which things attract, what things do they verbally say are important to them. How often, for example, do they say, I'm an ad skeptic, right? Roughly 20% of the people say they're ad skeptics. Just say they won't even read the ads. Now, interestingly, when we see that, it turns out to not be totally true. In other words, what they say isn't always reflect their actions. Sometimes I go back and click at it. Particularly, we saw in the legal space, we were doing research for an employment lawyer. And what we saw in that case, which employment law, you have a serious problem at work. It's really a big life decision, right? It's not like a restaurant where you're going to go once, you maybe don't have to go back. If you make a mistake, you're only out to $15, whatever. Finding an employment lawyer is a much bigger life decision, right? And so people are more likely in that kind of situation to go to a website. So we saw, I think it was 55% of the people went to a website. Maybe 45% went into the local Finder or Joe's map pad, and maybe 5% from ads. But when Google then introduced a local service ad into that mix. So 55-45, it switched to a third organic, a third local, and a third local service ads. That user behaviors dramatically switched from one way of looking to a different way of looking, because Google included, the Google guarantee, the image, the review stars, the years in business. These are all things in this particular vertical, in this particular need, matter to people. Years in business are incredibly important to somebody whose job and life is essentially on the line. And their behaviors changed dramatically. So switched over. So those are the kinds of things that we can see, and you can't see them otherwise, right? It was quite shocking to me, this total shift. So, and this was true of people, whether they said they were ad skeptics or whether they hadn't said they were ad skeptics. They were attracted to the review stars, the pictures, the Google guarantee, the years in business, all that sort of stuff, and then made their choice from that selection rather than from the organic results.
Wow, that is so interesting. I had no idea. So what is your personal opinion of local service ads? Do you like them? What do you think?
Well, I've watched the evolution. I went back, was writing an article the other day about in Europe, they're now requiring that local service ad account to be associated with the GBP account. They're nuking LSA reviews and replacing them with Google My Business reviews, which is an ironic and sad testimony to Google's cheapness, laziness, lack of caring, because historically, in 2015, when local service ads were brought out, there was the promise of heavy vetting of these businesses, plus verified reviews, where the only review that would go through was somebody that actually booked through the system. Subsequent to that, Google has let all of that stuff, they do some vetting of the business, and now they're a little careful about making sure that your business has an address to get an LSA, but they don't vet where you advertise. They don't vet your reviews. They let you get fake reviews. They let people buy fake reviews for negative review attacks. And unlike GBP, where they've improved the review algorithm, they've improved the moderation tools. In local service ads, the tools are not just rudimentary, but broken. You can report one review at a time. You get no feedback whether you can no appeal process, no escalation process. If you get a fake review attack, it's a living hell in LSAs. So, what was your question? Whether I like LSAs?
Your thoughts on it.
They are an incredibly powerful advertising medium. If they're in your market and you're not using them, you're making a mistake. By the same token, Google has allowed them to become a cesspool. Why? I don't know. And that is on Google, and to me, it's criminal.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
What do you think about local services?
Yeah. No,
I my mild opinion about them.
Yeah. No, it's basically the same thing. I love them. All my clients are pest control. It works fantastic for pest control. We usually just max out the budget almost right away. A little bit incremental, but after a month or two, we basically max out their budget and usually seeing amazing results. So I absolutely love LSAs. I think that especially pest control company should run them. I'm not too familiar with other industries, so that would be more on your end, but really seeing amazing results. I think it's stupid not to use them because you're paying for the calls, right? So you know exactly what you're paying for.
I'm curious. I know they introduced a new call credit system where you no longer can dispute calls. They automatically credit them using their vaunted AI. How is that going?
I haven't seen that actually, because usually I have clients mark the leads. It's usually like a office manager or something, so I'm not too familiar. Usually I just set it up initially and optimize it, and then they're basically good to go. Just make sure that they're following all the policies, and maybe they have a picture that's marked like they can't use it, so we have to take it down. But usually they are marking the leads themselves because they're taking the calls.
Cool. So what's the
Yeah.
lead distribution look like typically for your clients across ads, local, organic?
Mm. It's honestly spread pretty evenly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say there's more on the LSAs. So I'd say, I mean, I'll kind of give you a ballpark, maybe 30 to 40% LSAs, maybe then probably 20% for then Google Ads, 20% for Google Business Profile, and 20% for organic. Usually those are
Mm-hmm.
kind of at the same, but LSA is always usually at the top because it's so consistent. And once we get a good Google Business Profile in place, and as long as they have a lot of reviews or a decent amount at least to compete with the market, then usually they perform super well.
Cool.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see, what else do I have for you? So you've been running Near Media for 3 years now. Tell me what that's like. Tell me why you started it and how it's been going.
So in 2019, sold the two businesses that I was active in, which was Local U and Gather Up. And I continued to work for Local U for a period of time, and I continued to work for Gather Up. So I sold both those late fall 2019, just before the pandemic. Pandemic hit, and March that year, I was actually scheduled to go speak at SMX in Germany, and my wife and I were going to do a 30th wedding anniversary trip to Greece, where we had done our wedding trip, and those got canceled. So I hunkered down and resolved all the finances and stuff of those two sales and invested in two businesses. One was Leadferno, and the other was Near Media. So I guess probably late 2020 or early 2021. I can't remember exactly when those got going, but roughly that time frame. Both with the idea that, if I'm going to invest, I want to invest it sort of in myself as opposed to investing in some abstract other company. I felt like I had one good business left in me, maybe. I mean, I'm 70, what year is it? I'm 73. So I thought, at this point, so I thought I've got one good business left in me. It'd be fun to build another business after having, failed at some, succeeded at others. I thought I could make a go of it. So Near Media, Greg Sterling and David Mim. David Mim is another OG, as it were, of local. Very, very smart guy, probably the smartest guy I know in the local space, who had also developed some SaaS products and sold them and worked as a product manager in a number of places and has a very rigorous view of things. He and I had talked about creating a business for years. We never had. And Greg Sterling seemed like a very talented person. So I put the money on the table for the three of us. Initially, the idea with Near Media was to create a subscription-based, membership-based information product and forums. But it wasn't clear to us that we could generate enough money. So we pivoted to consumer behavior research about a year and a half ago. And so last year, we spent the year doing some test projects that were very successful, and we've been doing them ever since.
Okay, awesome. And how often do you do them? And can you give me some examples of what the projects are?
Sure. So we do them we can do, it takes us about a month to do any one. So we're trying to get a cadence where we're doing that many. We aren't quite there yet. So we have some openings in our schedule if you are looking to do it in your space. And so we work with the client we work with clients that have a combination, that have local presence. So we've worked with a SaaS company that built websites for local doctors. We worked with a employment lawyer that had 25 locations around the United States. We've worked with a storage company that had 60 locations around the United States. We've done some research that we've shared with the EU regulatory bodies about user behaviors in light of Google regulatory requirements in the EU, for example, in the restaurant space. We've done it in home remodeling. For similar purpose, we're working with a trade a trade group that represents a number of players throughout Europe, helping them understand both how they can help their members as well as provide information to the EU regulatory bodies as to Google's behavior. So any place where there's a range of locations. So the primary job is to understand consumer behavior in these problem sets we get. So we work with the client to develop the statement of the problem. So for that we're going to give to this panel, and we try not to bias it, too much, other than to say you got to do this work at Google, and we then track it. So like I said, we can do about one a month. We're not at that runway rate yet. Depending on the job, they run from 25K to 60K, depending on what we do. In addition to consumer behavior research, we're also doing consumer UI and UX research. So a company will come to us maybe with 25 or 30 locations. We'll find their major competitors, and then we'll set consumers the job of accomplishing a task on these respective websites and see how well how the consumers perform in relationship to the competitor's website. So we also do that. And we also do, in some situations, we will do local audits. Now, obviously, when we're working with an agency, we don't do local audits. We let them do the local audits, and we just do the consumer behavior research. So we work directly with companies or with agencies who have a strong interest in knowledge in a vertical that needs information to get a leg up.
Okay, awesome. Is there any, maybe one or two aspects that most, let's say, these agencies are missing out on? Like, every single agency isn't doing this for their clients, and it is totally hurting their rankings. Is there any one factor that you've seen kind of across the board that is universally missed out on?
Yeah, behavior research.
Okay.
I don't think most businesses or most agencies understand what consumers are doing in the search funnel. And without understanding that, it's hard to prioritize your job tasks, your job list.
So I believe you said it's 20 to 60 grand. How can someone do that potentially by themselves? Should they simply go through their own funnel themselves? It sounds stupid, but I feel like no one even does that.
Yeah, the problem with doing it yourself is you bring so many biases to it. It's very difficult to get a fresh set of eyes on it. Like I said earlier, I am constantly shocked by how consumers search, the way they search, the things they search for, and the things they find important. I figured everybody in the world was like me. Why wouldn't they be perfect, right? But they're not. And so you need to assemble a panel somehow. I assume you could, put together 20 average people in a given market or that and give them a task, and then, use a tool to record and videotape them and watch what they do and listen. But the problem is sample size, right? If you don't have at least 100 participants, your statistics are going to be skewed. And even then, there's a standard deviation that's, fairly large, but it becomes predictive at 100. So you really need to get into the 100, 200 range to make it statistically valid. But even 20, watching real consumers accomplish this task on your behalf would be valuable. So, set up a video camera, bring people into your office, pay them $25, have them read the task, and you record it,
Awesome. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And it's so ingenious. I've never thought of it before.
Pony up and buy the service, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, that's true. That's true too. Yeah, no, I don't know anyone else in the space that's doing it. Is anyone even doing it remotely on the level that you are? Yeah.
Not that we know of. So it's one of the reasons we got into it. It's turned out to be, it's very hard work tabulating, but it's always always, always enlightening, and it is always, always vertical specific, that you can't pick one thing out of it. That I'm trying to develop this, like I said, this spider model to understand that, is style more important? Is, life impact more important? Or review, is reputation more important? Is price, proximity more important? Or what are those variables? And if I can identify the 6 or 7 variables and can plot each industry, I can then maybe start developing a theory about any other given industry, right?
Interesting.
But, you look at pest control, it's not like storage, right? Storage is perceived as a commodity. They want cheap, they want convenient. But pest control, you're inviting somebody into your house to deal with a problem in your daily living. It's an unusual situation. I don't know how people would respond. And it's different than a lawyer. It's not like this life impact. It's not like it is an impact, right? But like our family and my wife particularly are very concerned around, as it relates to your industry, it's very concerned around environmental hazards and poisons. And she, I know, would vet any pest control company based on what they use, how they use it, how they help, is it harmful to the cats and pets around the house? Is it harmful to the plants around the house? Is it harmful to the humans in the house? I know she would use it, but whether 99 other people would use it as a criteria, I can't say. So I just believe that it would be unique. I'm sure there's some minimum threshold of reviews, right? But I don't know what it would be. And again, it varies by market.
That's why I like being niche down, especially in pest control, because I feel like the market is almost unanimous. Like, it's not to be biased. This is what the behavior shows, is that it's usually obviously homeowners that are, between 40 and 60, and it's usually more often than not a woman reaching out. So on like Google ads, I'm usually seeing like 70% female, and on Facebook ads, I haven't run too many Facebook ads for pest control, but my buddy who's done it for over 300 clients has seen like 95% women, which is also more Facebook based, because then it's not like you necessarily need the pest control, but they're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll buy it. Whereas Google, we see that it's usually like an emergency service. Like, guys, there are bed bugs crawling all over my bed. I need you to come right now, which is why I like pest control, why I like doing SEO for pest control, because it's very straightforward. It's like, hey, there are bugs in my house. I need someone to come here now. It's not like, I'm thinking about getting a new garage door. I might want a better lawn. It's like,
well, there are certain pest problems though that are like, we have mice. We get mice every fall. Is this something that needs a professional, or can I just set up traps, right? We've had ants every spring for years. We finally did something about it. We hired pest control last spring. But there are certain things, because they went away after a couple of weeks, we said, all right, whatever. When we finally saw the little dust piles building up, we acted. But there are certain parts of pest control that are not as immediately demanding.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe I've got a raccoon or a bear that's bothering me, whatever, so there's both sides to it, which is interesting, right? I think it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And again, there has to be a high level of trust. Can you solve the problem? Are you trusted by others? What is your specialty? I'm sure that people are looking for very niche expertise as well, not just pest control, but specific kind of pest control, right? I think bed bugs must be different than ants.
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%. So out of all the tests you've run, I'm sure you've run a lot, maybe, I don't know, up to 50. Has there been like one favorite or one that stands out in particular?
Favorite learning or favorite test? Sure. To me, the learning, I come from a world of reviews, right? I started a review company, Gather Up, with a couple partners, and have been in reviews since 2008. So for me, the low frequency of which people don't read reviews and trust reviews and use them as a proxy for quality, and recency. I mean, they go in, they look to see if they're new sometimes. They look to see if owners respond sometimes, not very often on either of those. They look to see the quantity and how it compares to competitors. But very rarely do people read reviews. That to me is an interesting learning and it seems to be almost universal, that across virtually every vertical we've seen, there's just this very small subset of people who really read the reviews seriously, which I think it means that ratings are just as good as reviews, right? It means that you don't need to worry as much about one negative review. Although, like I said, maybe 23% do read reviews. Those people are looking for recency. They're looking for owner responses. They're looking to see whether the reviewer is a crackpot. They're looking to see whether the owner responded reasonably. So all of those considerations are still valid, but only for 20% or 30% of your potential incoming customers. So those are all important things. They're just not as important. They aren't universal demands.
Interesting. So it doesn't even matter too much if some of your reviews have no text, because I've seen a lot of people push that. They're like, it's got to have text and like a photo, and maybe then they have to say like give another 5-star on like these other sections. What do you think?
I think that wasting your consumers' time and wasting your time is a waste of time. I think that, and I think you need the process as a business to be easy, transparent, and accomplishable. I think that feedback from your customers is probably more important than reviews, which is why we designed Gather Up with NPS score at its core and first-party feedback at its core, because you're going to get 30 times the feedback of first-party feedback as you're going to get any review process. Some people don't want to do public reviews. They don't want to speak ill of you. They don't feel comfortable going out and leaving a review, but they will give you direct feedback. And to me, the beauty of reviews, whether it's first-party or third-party, is that collection of feedback so that you really can understand which employees are doing great. You don't really want to be steering it any more than I want to steer my research. It is the best research you have into the hive mind of your consumers, first party review content. And I think you want to just make it easy for them to do it. What reviews you get at Google is great, but make it super easy for them to do and take what you get. And, build it into the process. So you meet the customer, you give them a quote, they agree to do it. You say to them, gee, Mr. Customer, if you're happy with our work, or even if you're not, we're going to ask you to give us feedback. We hope you'll take the time to do that. So you get a social commitment from them early on. When the worker finishes the job, he confirms that, either here's the QR code, or we hope that you're satisfied and would leave us feedback. And then that's followed up with an email or two. That is, right now I'm getting texts from my vet and my doctor and my dentist. It's like, fuck you guys. I don't want to give my dentist a review every time. I give them feedback, but they're not asking me for feedback, right? And how many times can you ask for reviews? You can always ask for feedback. So my attitude is make it smooth, build it in, take what you get on the review side, but focus more on the incredible insights you're going to get from feedback. And you'll be able to tell which employees are good, which ones are average. You'll be able to tell which processes your company is not doing well. There's a saying in the customer experience world that a complaint is the building block of a better business. So, and the problem is reviews do not solicit complaints. Feedback does. People don't feel comfortable complaining in public as a general rule. Now, some percentage do, clearly, because otherwise there wouldn't be any negative reviews. But it takes a lot to push a person to leave a public negative review. Socially, they've got to really be wronged. And the benefit of feedback is not only do you get that information early where you can fix it, but you can fix for that customer, but you can fix it for every future customer as well. And you don't get that with reviews. So to me, a process that includes both first-party feedback and reviews is the optimal process.
That is so great. And I've never heard anyone talk about it like that. Everyone's just trying to drive as many reviews as possible, whatever you can do to get a review. But they're but they're not thinking about, well, how can we actually build a great business? Because that's what it's about. It's the same way as you don't want to optimize for Google, you don't want to optimize for reviews. Like, build a great business. Like, get your customers to have an amazing experience and want to keep buying from you. And then all the other SEO just builds on top of it. So, I mean, I've said this countless times that I won't take on clients that have a bad business, which maybe they don't have good reviews or whatever, people are saying negative things about them, because SEO is just amplification of who you already are, right? So we want to make content saying, hey, this person just left a great review, or, hey, we just donated to this local charity, or we are sponsoring this event. Like, it should be a good business that's already doing good things, and now we just amplify that, right?
Right. Exactly. And in the vein of amplification, all these first-party reviews can be filtered and parsed so that if somebody did ant control or somebody did bed bugs, you can take those reviews and put them on the bed bug page as social proof. You can put them on the ant page as social proof. You can put them in Facebook as social proof that you know how to do bed bugs, and you know how to do ants, and you also know how to do raccoons or whatever the other problems are. So the volume, like I said, the volume is 20 to 30x you're going to get of, and it's going to be a huge amount of valuable intelligence, but it's also incredibly valuable in your future marketing because social proof is incredibly important. So you just want to bake it in, build a better business, make it easy for the customer, quit harassing them, and, take what you get on the review side, stop worrying about it, I mean,
awesome.
You worry about it. You worry about it in terms of building the better business, but
definitely. And last question I have for you before we wrap up: where do you see the future of local SEO going? With all the AI coming out, now more Google leaks coming out, what does the next year or few years look like for local SEO?
So Google has a problem with AI, and the problem is AI answers are very expensive for them. Takes a lot of compute power, costs multiples of generating a search result. But like they felt the need to compete with MapQuest and YP.com, they feel the need to compete with ChatGPT, Anthropic, and Microsoft in the world of AI. So they're going to continue to show them, but in areas where they have an advantage, like local, where their knowledge graph is the best in the world, they don't need to rely on AI to deliver those answers. They can double down on local, have unique, valuable results. So what I see happening is the search results that we're seeing in local, and I wrote about this several weeks ago, and I can send you the link, is we're seeing this doubling down in local because the cost to Google of doing it is very low compared to AI. The rewards are very high. They have increasing surfaces in which to put ads. The local finder, search results, maps, the phone, the desktop, and they have the best results. So like in Europe right now, when you do a local search, like a near me search, you'll see a couple ads at the top, a thing called places sites, which is sort of a carousel of aggregators, just one. And then you'll see a local pack. Then you'll see a people also act. Then you'll see another local pack. You'll see two local packs in the main search results.
Huh.
And then you might see an organic result. So what I see in truly local results, and I see in any local, whether it's truly local or local intent, is a doubling down of their special knowledge. See this in hotels. You'll see it in any other vertical. You see it with images. We see images flowing in because they have this incredible advantage with images. They have big surprise. They have big advantage with videos too. So we see Google in non-AI answers, them doubling and tripling down on bringing their own elements into the results. And this is in local and everything else, right?
Interesting. So it sounds like local actually won't change much, but everything else will.
Well, I mean, we have seen some AI experiments, in local. Again, I think I shared some of those on Twitter. Some experiments where the page is multiple carousels, not one carousel, but multiple carousels of local data, largely constructed out of their knowledge graph, but assembled by AI or some sort of AI proxy. I think you may see AI come into play in, they're talking about trip planning, for example. This is an area that's always been weak. You have a Saturday off, you have custody of your child for that day. What's something fun to do with a 10-year-old in Seattle? That kind of thing. That requires a multitude of resources that AI is particularly good at solving. So I do think you'll see AI in that, but that's just more of a sort of solving the funnel, not solving the answer, right? So I see local as being more valuable going forward. I do see AI coming into it, but I think they're going to keep their costs down, and by leveraging, like I said, local data, the local knowledge graph, YouTube, images, and you're going to see all of that more and more in all results.
Awesome. That's, again, great to know. I learned personally so much on this podcast from you. I'm going to go through, all of your blogs, all of your stuff. You are seriously the real deal, man. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a great week.
Of course. Before we get off, where can people find you on social media?
Mike Blumenthal on LinkedIn and Blumenthal on Twitter are the two places I post. I write regularly at nearmedia.co. We have a newsletter at nearmedia.co. My back library is at blumenthals.com, where I basically, when I started Near Media, stopped writing there, but there's 15 years of backstory. And one of the fascinating things is I periodically go back and look at the ranking factors from 2007. They're largely the same as the ranking factors in 2017 and 2024. So there's some interesting stuff there as well. But right now, nearmedia.co or mblumenthal on Twitter.
Awesome. Perfect, man. So I'll link all those in the description.
One final note on that is that I have an open email inbox, mblumenthal@nearmedia.co. You have a question, if it's going to be extensive, I'll let you know. If it's something I can answer quickly for you, I'll be glad to do it pro bono. So don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Awesome, man. Well, I love your giving nature. I mean, I can tell, you coming on this podcast and you giving away so much value for free. You are truly the real deal, and you're just a great guy. So I'll also put your email in the description.
Is TBD. The rest of it I'll accept. Not to be an asshole in today's world is hard work. I wake up every day and my goal is to not be an asshole that day. That's the best anybody can do. Clearly, some of us are not succeeding at that. I'm not sure I am or I'm not. It's not for me to judge, but I do make that effort every day to not be an asshole. So good luck to you all with that effort. So
definitely. Well, after this call, I can pretty confidently say that you are not an asshole, but I don't know, maybe that's just this call.
Yeah, well, it's easy for an hour to be somebody else.
That is hilarious. All right, Mike. Well, I'll let you go now. Great podcast again, and so good to have you.
It's nice being here. Thank you again.
All right, thank you, Mike.